show me where the Antarctic is.
Okay, the Antarctic is down here in the southern regions of the Earth, and that's Australia, that's Sydney, and the Antarctic's way down there, and the place that I stayed at is around here.
What was the name of the place?
The place was called Mawson, and a lot of people know the Antarctic from down here where the cruise ships go.
Now we're looking at a closer map. Can you show me in more detail where you were?
Yes, I can. Here's our station here, right? That's called Mawson Station, and here's the Antarctic Peninsula where the cruise ships go. And the South Pole is down there, and lots of adventurers come in here and they cross over there and they say they've crossed the Antarctic. Some go straight across, some go via the South Pole.
Where was Shackleton on his
Shackleton came down here and he was going to land here and send a party across here and get picked up. And this was way back in 1912. But his ship got stuck in the ice here, and the ice crushed his ship, and all the men were stuck on the ice without any ship. All they had was 2 lifeboats, and they had to stay alive for 2 years before they were rescued.
I'm here with my grandpa, and we're here because he went to Antarctica in 1965, 55 years ago. He lived there for a year and a half, and I'm going to ask him a few questions about his travels so I can learn more about Antarctica. Okay, the first question. Why did you go down to Antarctica?
I went down there to work because I didn't have a job, and I saw an advertisement in the paper, and I thought I'd apply for that advertisement and see if I could get a job down the Antarctic. At that stage I had no idea what the job was about.
That's really cool. I don't think most people would go and apply for a job that they had no idea about.
Well, I didn't have any employment, and I was answering advertisements in the newspaper, and I thought I'd give this one a try.
Okay, so what was your job down there, and did it exceed your expectations?
Well, I didn't have any expectations because I didn't know what the job was. But after I was accepted to go down there, I did find out what the job was about. And the job was about looking after some electronic instruments and to make sure they kept working, and to look at the results and send the results back to Australia by telegram. And it was a very good job, and I enjoyed it very much.
Okay, so how did you get there, and how long did it take to get down there?
Well, we went by ship, and the ship left Melbourne, and we sailed down to the Antarctic in about 2 weeks. And we pulled up and we all got off, and we all had to help unloading the boat. It was full of cargo, oil and coal, and briquettes and food and everything you need for a whole year, because we'd get no other supplies for 1 year. There'd be nothing coming down after this ship left.
Okay. Was it smooth, or did you have any things that happened on your journey?
Well, going down was very, very smooth and very pleasant, and the meals were great on the boat. But the Southern Ocean, which we have to travel through, can be very, very rough. So coming back, we had a lot of trouble. We, instead of taking 2 weeks, we took 6 weeks, because we ended up in a very bad storm, and we nearly sank, and we had to just go backwards and forwards for 2 weeks, getting nowhere. And then we visited a couple of other places on the way back, and we were lucky to make it back. And we came back to Tasmania, and guess what? When we came back, all the money had changed. When we went down, it was pounds, shillings and pence, and when we came back, it was all dollars. And we couldn't recognise the money, and that was really interesting.
That's really cool. How long were you there for?
We caught the ship in Melbourne in November, and we stayed all that summer, which is till about March, April, and all winter and then we spent the next until November, December, and then we came back the next March. So we had 2 summers and 1 winter.
Okay. I've heard in Antarctica it can be really rough. How was the weather down there?
The weather can be very bad. The main thing about the weather was a constant wind. When we went outside, there was a constant wind all the time, never stopped. Very rare, about 2 or 3 days in the whole year. Wind, 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 never stopped. And about every 4 or 5 weeks we had a blizzard, which was very strong wind mixed with snow and ice, which blew into our faces and our eyes and we couldn't see. So it was really bad. We just didn't go out at all until sometimes for a week or 2. We just didn't go out because it was too dangerous. We couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything. So the weather can be very, very bad.
Okay. You said that you took all of your food down there, but did you grow anything, or did all of that food last the whole time you were there?
Yeah, all the food. We couldn't grow anything. Nothing grows in the Antarctic. There's basically no growth at all. There might be some odd little fungi somewhere, but for all practical purposes, there's no growth at all. Nothing grows. So we took everything down: eggs, bacon, sugar, flour, orange juice. I was very keen on a juice. It was grapefruit juice. I was the only one there who loved grapefruit juice, so there was tons of supplies of grapefruit juice. So I never ran out of grapefruit juice. So I had plenty of grapefruit juice. All the meat, everything, onions, tomatoes, well, tin tomatoes, a lot of tin stuff. Yeah. No fresh food.
Okay, I'm wondering, you were down there for a year and a half. How did you keep contact with people from back in Australia?
Well, the only official way to keep contact was by a telegram we had to use, and it was very cumbersome. And we used to have to pay for that, even though we had no money. We used to have a bill which we used to have to pay, so people didn't use it very much. And they used to have a system whereby they had a code, so they could use less. You paid by the letter, you know. So we had codes to say what we wanted to say, like Yikla, Y-I-K-L-A, means we're having a wonderful time down here. And another code which said the sea ice is forming. And we didn't have to say those words, we just said these 5-letter codes, but they weren't used very much because it wasn't very exciting doing that, was it? Didn't mean much. But I was lucky because I had a hobby back in Australia using radio. And so I took my radio set down there and I set it up down there and I could actually talk to people all around the world. And I'll show you a photo of my radio set. Show you a photo of that. And with that radio set, I used to talk to people all around the world, and they used to send me cards the next year when I got back saying they'd talk to me. And this is a card from Canada. Oh, that's a card from Canada. And that's a card from Russia. That's a card from London. Right? And he's written on the back his address. And that's a card from Tokyo. And that's a card from Washington in the United States. And I got a whole bag of them. All these cards. Whole bags of them. Oh. So I had a busy time talking to all these people on my radio set. So that's how I used to fill up my time down there, one way anyway.
That's very interesting. What were your duties? You did work, but did you have to paint anything or?
Yeah, we had to. We only had everybody had to do everything down there. So we all had to cook, we all had to clean, we all had to melt snow to make water, we had to paint, we had to maintain and paint, and we had to shovel snow, and we had to be on night watch duty as well, which meant at night time when everybody's asleep, somebody had to stay awake and make sure everything was going okay. Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah?
I was on night watch and I thought the kitchen stove had gone out, and that was not allowed to let the kitchen stove go out because it took ages to get it going again because it was run off coke. So I thought I'd get it going again, and I threw some kerosene into the stove and it all exploded, and it burnt all the hair off me, all my eyebrows and all the front of my hair and all the hair off my hands because of the big flame that shot out like a jet engine. So I learned a big lesson that day: never throw stuff on fires. You might get a big surprise.
Okay, entirely different subject. When you were out, did you see any animals?
Yeah, we saw animals. The penguins used to hang around the station, the Adelie penguins, and they were very cute. They used to go in pairs, and they used to hang around the station, a bit like chooks, you know.
Yeah.
And then there were they used to lay their eggs not far away, and that used to attract birds called skewers, which used to try and pinch the eggs, the penguin eggs. And not far away from the station were emperor penguins.
Okay.
But the other animals were in the sea. We saw killer whales
Oh.
and ordinary whales, big whales. I don't know what species they were, but they were huge whales in the sea. We used to see them a long way off, and great big things like submarines, but we didn't know what they were. But we used to see the odd killer whale as well. And we used to fish for little fish as well. Tiny little fish in the cold. So that's about the only animals we saw.
So, did you see any seals?
Oh yes, sorry, we saw seals. We saw Weddell seals,
Okay.
and we saw sea elephants as well. But we had to sort of go away a little bit to see them. They were not exactly where we were staying, but we used to do trips out to see the seals and the sea elephants, which smell. The sea elephants are very, very bad smell.
Okay. What clothes did you wear, and how often did you wash?
Well, my job was not outdoors. I didn't have a job outdoors like some of the people there. They used to work outdoors. So I used to wear ordinary clothes. I used to wear a pair of pyjamas and another pair of clothes over the top, and thick socks and thick boots and this cap.
Okay.
And when it was cold, I used to wear a coat, a sort of a coat as well, a little sort of jackety coat. But that's about all I used to wear because I didn't have to work outside, luckily.
Yeah.
And of course gloves,
Wait,
thick
so
gloves.
how often did you wash?
Oh, well, we had no running water,
Okay.
so we didn't wash that often. And I didn't wash very often. And I used to wash my face, but I didn't have a shower very often, not every day, sometimes only once a fortnight I had a shower. Because we had to make our own water for the shower. We had no running water, so we made water by melting snow in a bucket on a fire, on a stove, a pot-bellied stove. And when the bucket of water got nice and warm, we used to use that for our shower. So it wasn't very, and we used to have to do the same thing to wash our clothes. So we didn't wash our clothes very often.
Yeah.
And it was very dangerous in the washing place because the floor was covered in water and it was frozen. So you could slip around and hurt yourself.
Okay. What did you do with your garbage?
Oh well, that was easy. We had we used to have a sled thing,
Yeah.
and we used to put all the garbage on the sled.
Yeah.
Then we used to hook the sled up to a little tractor,
Yeah.
and we used to go pom 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 with the tractor out on the sea ice, and we lifted it up and all the garbage fell on the sea ice, and we used to do that all the time, and there's this big mountain of garbage on the sea ice, and then when summer came, the sea ice broke away and just floated away.
That's not very good for the earth.
Well, we didn't, we weren't so, it wasn't so much worry about those sort of things in those days.
So they don't do it now.
They don't do it now. In actual fact, they don't. Everything has to come back.
Yeah.
Everything that goes down has to come back. Every single thing. Nothing is disposed of down there these days.
Okay. So how are your living conditions?
Living conditions. Well, I'll just show you this photo. See, our living conditions were in those little square aluminium huts. And we had 6 of them for the people, 6 sort of bedroom type huts. And I think there were 6 people in each hut. And we used to live in them, and there were 4 or 5 joined together to make the kitchen and the recreation room. And we used to get out of those huts and walk over to the recreation room and have our breakfast and dinners and teas and things there. And there's a little room there where we could sit and read and play records. But we had no internet or anything. There was no. We had a movie projector with with the films in it on reels that you could put in and play old movies. But we had no internet and no television, of course.
Yeah. So, did you get paid? And if so, what did you spend it on?
We got paid, but we didn't have any money down there. They used to pay our money back in Australia into a bank. So we had no money down there. So we were provided with everything that we needed, which was basically food and clothes. So we had no need for anything else. There's nothing you could buy down there.
Yeah.
So we just had clothes and food and a few things like lollies and things like that,
Okay, so you told me that you got a medal from your journey. So can you tell me
Yeah,
about
I did
it?
get a medal. This is the medal. This is the medal. And it's called a polar medal. This is the polar medal. And it's given to people who spent a winter down there in those days. They don't get it anymore. But in those days it was regarded as pretty special to spend a winter down the Antarctic. So if you spent a winter down there, you got this polar medal, and that's my one.
Okay.
It's got my name on the back. See, it's got my name on the back.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here today, and so you could talk to me about all of your adventures down in Antarctica. It was lovely having you.
It was lovely having the questions, Grace. And if there's anything else you want to know, we'll make another interview. How about that?
Okay, bye.